Greetings, family. We are live on YouTube. Welcome. It is Ujamma Day. Sister Shanice in the house. Looking forward to a really interesting conversation with you today. Last strong, as you know, we had some internet challenges. Certainly hope that that is not going to be the case today. Let me just go over to YouTube on my phone and check that I am indeed live. Yeah, as you come through the house, please hit me up in the chat as well. Let me know that you're hearing me. Let me know that I am coming through. We have a special guest in the house again today. We had major challenges last strong, but certainly hope that we will be able to put that behind us today. So I'm just going to grab the link and post the link to family and friends in WhatsApp. And I would really love for you to do the same. Even if you're watching us on replay, please do let family and friends know that they need to log in. They need to check us out because we're going to be having some conversations tonight that is going to be so pertinent to us as Africans, wherever we are in the world, okay? And so, you know, there's always so much going on in the African world, isn't there? And, you know, sometimes we might miss or lose sight of what's actually happening. And so it's really important for us to have shows like this so that we can focus on what is pertinent to us as Africans in the world today. So thank you so much in advance for staying with me today. I'm going to just post. Rise up, Brother Kwame. Good to have you in the house nice and early. Thanks for being the first one to post in the chat as well. Great to have you in the house. I'm going to just be posting the link and the flyer behind the scenes. Okay, family? Please help me to do the same. We are live. Let the family know that we are live. Let the family know that we have a special guest tonight, none other than our beloved King Joshua Maponga. He's going to be sharing his views, thoughts, and opinions on what's current in the news today. And he will also be sharing with us, you know, information and nuggets from his new book. Have you already got his book? If you haven't, what are you waiting for? I'm going to be posting the link in the chat once I've finished posting here, okay? His book is, wow, full of some of his most popular quotes, his African proverbs. You know, he's been at the forefront of trying to change the mindset of us as a people, as Africans, because as you know, we've had a really awful job done on us over the last 300-400 years or so. We are no longer, you know, most of us in our right African mind. And so, you know, we really need to get back our African mindset. So that is what the essence of King Joshua's book is all about, getting us back into that African mind. Because, you know, not only has enslavement and colonization, you know, kind of removed us from the essence of who we are as Africans, there are also, you know, ongoing tools that are being used against us on a daily basis that is shaping our minds. And in the process of shaping our minds, it's taking us further and further away from who we are as Africans. And so that's why spaces like this are so important. It's so important that we rediscover and reconnect with our African self. And, you know, we have greats among us like King Joshua Maponga, who, you know, just hears with such clarity from his ancestors and then is able to share with us the information that he's getting downloaded to him by his ancestors. And, you know, many of us have lost connection with our ancestors. And we was learning on my show earlier today that another one of the reasons why we've lost connection with our ancestors is because of the mixing that's been happening over the generations. We as Africans, many of us, especially maybe those in the diaspora, are no longer, have the pure African blood. That blood has been mixed with the blood of other species. And you wonder why I say species. That's because, from my point of view, we are living among other species on this planet. And many of us think that there is just one race, the human race. But that's not my perspective. My perspective is that, the human race, the original people of this planet, are obviously us as Africans, and other species joined us fairly recently. As Africans, we've been around for millions of years, but there are species that have just been around for, say, 6,000 years. And these other species that are on this planet today have a very destructive nature about them. They operate and move like they are soulless beings without feelings. And so, we make the mistake in thinking that they have the same level of humanity as we do as Africans. And that is our biggest mistake. And so many of us now are no longer getting the download from our ancestors that we ought to be able to, and we used to be able to get, because, there's been some mixing along the way in our blood, in our bloodline, and maybe that's caused a bit of distortion in our ability to be able to connect with our ancestors. And of course, many of us have had our culture totally eroded as well. And, as we know, it has been said that if you can, erase a people's history, and if you can remove them from their culture, then it's as if they never existed. I mean, how many, wonderful African nations and groups have there been that have been like totally erased from history? Because we know what the recent species on this planet have been doing is they've been claiming our history as their own. They've been, collapsing time, giving the impression that, some of our ancient history is recent history, and then they've been claiming our history as their own. And so they're able to do that mainly because most of us don't know our history. Most of us don't know, that we are the original people of the planet. We've probably been around for millions of years. Most of us don't know that some of the ancient monuments and, the stone monuments have been around for probably hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of years. And these people who claim to be archaeologists come along and say that they've been along for 5,000 years, 4,000 years, and then we fall in line with their kind of nonsense. No, we as a people have been around, at least for hundreds of thousands of years, possibly millions of years. And so as the ancient people, the ones who are the originators, the original people who civilized the world, who created, and invented almost everything there is: mathematics, writing, engineering, the sciences, knowledge of the minerals, knowledge of, creating a whole range of tools and machinery and all kinds of things. We are great beyond measure as a people. There are some, engineering and archaeological feats that our ancestors accomplished that they don't even know today, with the technology that they have, how we managed to accomplish some of these great achievements and accomplishments that we did back in the days. And so they have to hide all of that from us because they don't want us to know how great we are as a people. They want to continue peddling the myth that we are less than, that we are inferior, that they are superior. You know, they want to keep peddling the myth that, you know, we are no good, good for nothings, layabouts, never have achieved anything and never think I never will do. But the truth is the reverse. The truth is that our greatness is beyond measure. And so it's really important that we study our history for ourselves, that we get to know our history for ourselves, because, you know, as I said, as the saying goes, you take away a person's history, you take away their culture, and it's as if they never existed. So make sure that you're studying your history, make sure you're studying your culture, make sure that, you know the greatness of who you are as Africans, okay? Nobody else is, we can't expect other species to be telling us about our greatness. We've got to do the research for ourselves, and we've got to find out the truth of who we are for ourselves. Yes, we've been through so much over the last few hundred years, so much. And some of us, depending on where we are in the world, have been going through, you know, horrors for, you know, over 1,500 years, if we include the Arab enslavement as well. And so, you know, we have been suffering as a people, and we have to wake up and start thinking, you know, why is it that we are going through what we're going through as a people? Where did we go wrong? And the reason why we need to be asking these questions is because we need to make sure that we find the answers to these questions and we correct, you know, where we went wrong, even if we have to go back in our past. You know, some of us might have to go back in our past and, you know, do things differently so that our futures who are coming in time to come, you know, don't actually have to experience what we've been experiencing as a people. So we've really got our work cut out, and, you know, it's down to us. It's up to us, really, to do the works that needs to be done. Okay, let me just check one of my groups here. We're going to try and do a stream via Facebook as well. Let me just see how my colleagues are getting on with that. And let's see, let's let them know that they can get the live link. Right, let's actually post that live link for them as well, so that you know, we can be joined. So family, you know, spread the word, let everybody know that we are indeed live. Okay, here's the live link. Yeah. Okay, all right. Fantastic. Okay, so I've been posting a link, and we should be getting more people joining us. And so we ought to be able to start really soon. Drop your messages in the chat. Oh, fantastic. I can see some messages already in the chat. Thank you so much for those of you who are already posting. I can see 6 foot in the house, 6 foot water. Welcome. Joining us all the way from Birmingham Strong. Oh, we've got Tarif who's watching us with love from Antigua and Barbara in the Caribbean. Welcome. I love Antigua. I've visited Antigua before. Such a beautiful Caribbean island. Sister Ujamma is in the house. Rise up. She's saying, those other inferior races don't understand that we Africans are the real human beings, and they have nothing to add to this conversation. So true. But, you know, they are exceptionally good deceivers. They have managed to successfully deceive us into believing that as a people, we are less than. Let me know what the volume is like out there. Let me know if you're hearing me okay. Thank you so much. Just got a note to say turn up the volume. So I've gone over to my boombox. Let's hope that that's going to make sure that you can hear me okay. We've got Jamaica in the house. Mahat Sisterhood Circle. Rise up, Mahat Sisterhood Circle. Great to have you in the house. Afrijamo is saying my internet is giving me problems. Oh no, I'm in the mountainous eastern region of Ghana, so we'll be in and out. Afrijamo, it's great to have you in the house. I understand only too well the challenges that we have on the continent here in regards to internet. We need our internet technicians to come from the West, to come to Africa. We need you. Matt, Sisterhood Circle, great to have you in the house as well. We're looking forward, yes, indeed, for our King, Joshua Maponga. Yes, the greatest. She says, Mahat Sisterhood Circle says, greetings, Alafia, the King Maponga, one of our greatest teachers of African history. Yes, he's said that he could probably spare about 30 minutes with us today. So I'm really looking forward to him joining us when he is able to do so. And let's see who else we've got in the house. Let's go down the messages. Rise up again, Sister Afrijamo. Rise up, Brother Kwame Oboje in the house. Drop me a message. Let me know if you're in the house, where you're watching us from. You know, I know there are many of you who are like silent viewers, but yeah, please do interact. Get yourself a YouTube link so that you can interact with us. All you need is a Gmail account. And once you've got a Gmail account, you automatically get access to like YouTube and a whole range of other apps that you will be able to use, okay? So yeah, get up with the times. You can open up an account in any name you want, any Gmail name you want, all righty? And then you'll be able to interact with us here on the Sister Shanice show and on other shows as well. Okay, well, so far, I think my internet seems to be doing okay. Major problems last strong. And, you know, the problems plagued me for a little while. We tried to do a live TikTok on Sunday, and that was, you know, plagued as well with major challenges. But let's hope that the internet holds out for us today. Right. Well, let me go over to some of the news stories. Let me see if this chat's going to come up first. Let's go over, see if I can get a live chat here. Let's see if I can if I get the live chat here, then I can do something else over here. All righty, but please keep posting your messages. I'm going to be coming back to the messages very soon indeed. I'm going to go now to some of the news stories that I have selected for us to have a brief discussion on today. And the first news story is a good story. Benin grants citizenships to the descendants of the enslaved. So what's that story all about? Some of you might be asking. Some of you may already be aware of it. Some of you may not actually be aware of the story. So get ready, get ready. We want to rise up Benin, you know, that wonderful West African country, you know, for recognizing that there are those like myself, descendants of the enslaved, whose roots do go back to Africa. Sadly, you know, I don't know exactly where my roots go back to, but I do know that my ancestral lineage does go all the way back to Africa. So here's a beautiful story. And let me just read this off to you. This is a story of when Ndege Anelka first came to the West African country of Benin from her home island in Martinique, a French overseas territory in the Caribbean. And the 57-year-old travel agent said that she had a feeling of deja vu. Wow, when she went to Benin, it was like deja vu. She said, a lot of the people reminded me of my grandparents, the way they wore their headscarves, their mannerisms, their mentality, she said. Wow. She said, feeling at home in Benin, Anika decided to settle there last July and open a travel agency. She hopes to become a citizen by taking advantage of a law passed in September that grants citizenship to those who can trace their lineage to the slave trade. Wow. The new law, which was initiated by President Patrice Talon, who has been in office since 2016, is part of a broader effort by Benin to reckon with its own historical roots in the slave trade. The law is open to all over 18 who do not already hold other African citizenship and can provide proof, oh, that might be hard for some, that an ancestor was deported via the slave trade from anywhere in the sub-Sahara Africa. Okay, right, so the Beninese authority accepts DNA tests, authenticated testimonies, and family records. Wow, so Anika, she used the Amchokoja affiliation in Antillean Creole, a website recognized by Benin to trace her heritage, proving that her ancestors were enslaved in Martinique. So if her application is successful, she will receive a provisional certificate of nationality valued for 3 years to get citizenship. She'll be required to stay at least once in Benin during that period. So, wow, 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 family. Do you have roots that go back to Benin? Those of you in the Caribbean, those of us in the UK or in America, not all of us have done the DNA. Not all of us want to give our DNA. We don't know where it might end up, you see. But, you know, how can we prove, how else can we prove that, you know, we are from somewhere in the West African region? I've never been to Benin, but I'm sure it's a beautiful country. And our sister has gone there and set up a travel agency. And I wonder, you know, what the tourism sector and the tourism industry is like in Benin. Well, you know, this is like an open invitation to us in the diaspora, is it not? To at least go to the country and, you know, explore the country for ourselves and see whether or not we get that deja vu feeling. You know, are we descendants, possibly, of Benin? Wow, you know, Benin was a great empire at one time as well. Huge empire. And so let's continue reading. It says here that Benin is not the first country to grant citizenship to descendants of the enslaved. Earlier this month, Ghana naturalized 524 African Americans after the West African country's president, Nana Akufo-Addo, invited them to come home in 2019 as part of the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in North America in 1619. Well, I do happen to know that not only were African Americans naturalized, but there was also an African British among them at least once, our very own, Sister Ujamma, who is now a Ghanaian citizen. Let's rise up some of the family in the house and welcome them on board. Yes, Kwame Oboje, great to have you. He's saying happy Kwanzaa. Yes, happy Kwanzaa. Black at you, beloved. And we have, let's see who else we have in our sister. Ujamma, 6 foot in the house. Tarif Takuma is in the house. Mahat Sisterhood Circle is in the house. Rise up, rise up. We've got plenty of messages from each of you. We love it. We love it. Sister Verna is in the house, coming through loud and strong. Thank you so, so much, sis. PK, Patrick is in the house. Great. Are you streaming via Facebook? Please let me know. And yes, we are looking forward to our beloved King Joshua Maponga joining us very soon as well. And I'll ask him, you know, if he will comment for us on that story, that Benin story. What are your thoughts and opinions on the Benin story? Are you now more likely to want to visit Benin, to see if, you know, you feel that deja vu, that feeling of deja vu. Many of us, you know, have traveled to Ghana. Many of us have traveled to the Gambia, and many of us have traveled to Nigeria. Benin hasn't been one of those countries that's been, you know, quite high up on our tourism list. Is it now time that maybe we actually ventured out to Benin and to see if maybe, you know, some of us have got roots there as well. Rise up, Sister Betty in the house, saying Hotep family. Good to have you in the house. Mahat Sisterhood Circle in the house as well. And Patrick is setting us up via Facebook. He's almost done there. Wonderful, so that we can go live. And yeah, so that was one of the stories that jumped out for me over the last strong. And I want to thank the people of Benin. I want to thank the government of Benin for remembering us, for recognizing us. I think that this is something that all the African government should do. I think every African government, you know, should change its citizenship law to enable those of us in the diaspora who were born outside of Africa because of the enslavement, you know, to come back home. We should be invited and we should be welcome to come back home. Just imagine, you know, in my lineage, you know, I have my ancestors who was taken away from their homeland and, you know, relocated to the Caribbean. Some of us were relocated in America. And, you know, we have our roots in Africa. Some of us may have arrived in the Caribbean via England, via Scotland, via Ireland, where our ancestors may have lived, you know, for thousands of years. And even if that is the case, you know, our origin, who we are, is African. Whether we were born in America or China or India or England, from we are, you know, looking like myself, a rich melanated African person, irrespective of being born in Britain and having a British passport, I am an African. My identity is African. My roots is African, and I am proud to be African, and I love being African, and I wouldn't want to be any other of the inferior races. So, you know, I just love the skin that I'm in. So let's see what else they say in this article here. So Benin's citizenship law carries added significance in part because of the role it played in the slave trade as one of the main points of departure. Let's hope that that spirit of betrayal is no longer among the Beninese people. And in fact, let's hope that that spirit of betrayal, you know, where they betrayed their own people, yeah, and sold their own people into enslavement, only to then themselves become enslaved on their own land, only then for them, you know, to experience colonialism and to experience, you know, the harshness of the inferior beings that enslaved us. Let's recognize that we are one people, and what affects one of us affects all of us. You know, so imagine back in the days when, you know, people who looked like us were betraying us and selling us into enslavement, you know, didn't realize that what they were doing was going to come back and bite them or bite their children and their children's children. Because not only, you know, were those of us who were sold into enslavement and who experienced, you know, the harshness and the wickedness and the evil of being on the plantation, suffering as a people, our people on the continent suffered, who were left behind, suffered as well. So what does that tell us? It tells us that, you know, we are one people, and what affects one of us anywhere affects all of us everywhere. And so we really must learn how to look out for and look after each other. And, we shouldn't, absolutely must not, wish unto one of us what we would not want to have happen to us. And if all we want in our life is goodness, and that's what we're doing, wishing that, on the lives of others, then, goodness will certainly come to all of us. Family, as you can see here, I am promoting King Joshua Maponga's recently released book, Farmers of Thought. Make sure you get your copy, okay? It's only $4.99, and this book is going to help to transform our minds and to empower us as Africans. Many of us, especially those of us in the diaspora, who are, who were removed from our culture, lost, that oral tradition that our people had, which was to pass down wisdom in parables, to pass down knowledge, in parables. And here, we are, most of us in the diaspora, we might know a few parables from Jamaica, we might know a few poems and that from our Jamaican culture. But how many of us, know any of these wonderful parables, that our ancestors in our lineage, knew when they were in Africa, And so I just want to applaud and celebrate King Maponga for the great works that he's done and is doing, and has done by putting this book together. If you're not already a follower of King Joshua Maponga, you absolutely must follow this great king, because, by following him, you can get daily quotations, and these daily quotations, are words of wisdom that will inspire you. They will elevate you in your thinking. It's a whole new thought process, and it's basically the wisdom from our great king himself, King Maponga. And as I said, he gets regular downloads from our ancestors. And so we thank him so much for taking the time to put this ebook together to share with us. Kwanzaa is almost upon us. Happy Kwanzaa, everybody. Those of you who celebrate Christmas, it's, literally days away. So get a copy of this ebook for a loved one. These proverbs, these poems, these sayings, go back thousands of years, probably some of them, thousands of years. And there are thousands of words in this book, and it will help us to be more effective in our thinking, our African tradition, and a lot of our African brothers and sisters, sometimes they can talk to us in proverbs. They can talk to us using sayings, words of wisdom. They can, it's like another language that they're able to communicate in. And we've got to, get to know that language for ourselves. So get your copy of this ebook. Go to Gumroad and get your copy. It's brilliant, I must say. I've had the privilege of reading it, and we hope to have our beloved King join us very soon so that he can tell you about it for himself. In fact, what I'm going to do is find the link and post the link in the chat, alrighty, so that you can actually get your copy of this wonderful book of parables, and share it with your loved ones, because that's what it's all about. Each one teach one. We've got to rise each other up. Alrighty, so I've got the link, and let me get back to the chat and post it for you. Okay, family. Here we have it. Let's okay, all right, so let's see where I post it. Okay, let me go to the chat and do that. Right up, Sister Ujamma, give me lots of thumbs up. Please do give me a like. Rise Up S.A. Smith, good to have you in the house as well. Brother Kwame Abodje says 30 years that I have been celebrating Kwanzaa in London, Babylon. Oh, rise up, rise up. Africans have so many things that world fails to notice. That is so, so true. Yes, indeed. And so, yeah, do support the works of King Maponga. Get a copy of the book, share it, give it to a loved one as a gift for Kwanzaa. Give it to someone as a gift for Christmas, whatever you celebrate. This is an opportunity. And also remember, there is still my Marcus Mosiah Garvey book out there as well that you can give to a loved one as a gift. They would appreciate love it so, so much, I'm sure. And you can get that book free of charge. That's the Marcus Mosiah Garvey one. You can get that absolutely free of charge and give that as a gift alongside the book by our very own Joshua Maponga, who I can see has joined us in the studio. King, Joshua's in the house. Rise up, King. Please take yourself off mute. We are delighted to see you. You're on mute at the moment. You're still on mute. So while our King unmutes himself, we can all celebrate. And
I thought I'll take myself on a small little 10-minute nap, and it went on for 30 minutes plus. Oh, we're immersed. Sorry.
No problem. We are just delighted that you're here with us now and hopefully refreshed after your nap.
Thank you. How are you and all your listeners around the world? Sending you greetings.
Oh, thank you so much. We greet you, we welcome you, we celebrate you for this wonderful book that you have launched. I was just explaining to the listeners that those of us, especially those of us in the diaspora, who have been, one step removed from our culture, we've probably lost the knowledge of the parables and the proverbs and all those words of wisdoms that our ancestors would have handed down to us. And so we must get your book so that we can reconnect, with the wisdom from the African continent. King Joshua, please just explain to the listeners why you felt it was important to spend so much of your time putting together this book of Proverbs in quotes.
Initially, maybe let me clarify that this book was not my idea. It was Kasim's initial idea. Kasim is one of the fine young men that we have from Tanzania, the engineer who has been working behind the scenes on Pan-African Daily TV and many other private channels. The idea is that he started following and reading what I was doing. And, I write quite a bit. If there's anyone who's got a disease, it's me. And my disease is harvesting indigenous knowledge and making that knowledge into formal spaces of learning. So he started collecting these individual proverbs, and he created a page called Maponga J Quotes. So I saw him growing from literally 0 people, like zero. I think the day I saw him, we were about 5 of us on the page. I talk to you now, I think we've just crossed over the 400,000 margin with active people. So almost a year ago, if not 2 years, then I threw the dice back at him when I saw what he was doing, I think by then we were clocking about 70, 80,000 plus. Then I put up a poster on my page and on his page. I'm the administrator also on that page. And then I said, please, for all the years that you have known me, can you just find one quotation that should, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, though people are afraid of death, but whoever fears death has never embraced life. So I said to them, if you were given a chance to say something on my grave and write something on my epitaph, if there is one quotation that you will commemorate and remember, what is that one quotation that you love the best? Some people came around and say every man must have two wives. The first wife is land. The second wife is the woman who gives you children. Others say never throw arrows in the air when you don't have a metal helmet. Others came and said, all the weird thing. And I never knew for the life of me that there were some active, living human beings in the background there who were beginning to sieve through that entire maze of data and information and to be able to start formulating it into a written text. So I took upon the project from his initiative and I downloaded all the quotations. Basically, I just went on the page and I took all the quotations that we had been writing. And I did a small write-up behind them, the interpretation and the meaning of some of the meanings for it. And I'm not interested exactly in interpreting the meaning because that's where the learning is happening. I want someone to pick up this information or back into their cultural space. It's more or less like a comparative study. So can you tell us in your own space and with your own education and knowledge, what would this proverb sound like? And I think when people begin to think and apply their minds, whether it is neo-colonialism or it is capitalism or it is religious bigotry and religious indoctrination, psychological infiltration or economic abuse, or it is international supervision, regime changes, and etc. As we are looking at all these events that are bombarding not only the physical space of the African, but also the mental space, thinking process of the African. How do we as Africans interpret this, harvest the event, and preserve it in a language so that should our children in the future read these things, they should be able to apply their minds to the reality of our pain, our disadvantage. So you will find in those quotations highly philosophical quotation, English jawbreakers, cultural cross-sections, spiritual journeys and walks, cultural confluences, and dietary advices, medicine advices, but done very subtly so that in the midst of our communication, we can begin to speak more effectively to each other without necessarily selling our plot over to the white colonial system, which has oppressed us. So I find this work to be not just a piece of writing, as it were, but a highly intentional philosophical conversation of learning, a space of interaction. What do we do as Africans to be able to narrate, relate, engage, and deal with our issues as a matter of we have learned this lesson. What can the next generation learn from it? So I consider this, don't judge the book by the cover, by the way. The cover might not look very yummy for all practical purposes, but please, 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 please pick up the book, pick up one proverb a day, plant it in your spirit, digest it for the day, work around it, and see when you begin to look at life and interpret it through the window of wisdom, how much meaning do you have? I mean, there's a proverb, for example, that I wrote in there entitled, "A beautiful woman does not give birth to a lot of children." Okay. I mean, this is like a simple statement, but look at a young man who is so infatuated about getting himself a beautiful lady. And then you remember that beautiful as she is, she might not give you lots of children. What does that mean, therefore? You marry the woman that you love, or you marry the woman that loves you. Which marriage is, and while you're still thinking about that and trying to digest your head around that, then boom, come. If you are a woman and a man wants you pregnant, he must do it on his father's land, so that what you carry at least can have an inheritance underneath your feet. So it's a compendium of a continuous tide of inquiry, questioning, reflections that move from practical daily lessons into highly spiritual conversation. Where if your eyes don't understand it, give me a chance. Your spirit will interpret it. Thank
Well, thank you. Yeah, so we don't often maybe take enough time out to think. So what your book is giving us the opportunity to do is to think and to ponder on something that, you know, could transform the way that we think. Let me go to the book of your book and maybe just put out there one of your quotes and give people a little flavor. So this one says, those who have teaspoon minds can only fill their quest of knowledge to the maximum capacity of the spoon from the ocean of truth. Others have dishes, others drums, and others have generators to pour water and fill their reservoirs of knowledge. The size of your cup determines the capacity you can take from the river of plenty. Wisdom, like water, takes the shape of the container. Farmers of thought. Wow. So that is just so powerful. If we will just start thinking of that in the chat, tell me what comes to mind. What comes to your mind from that quote? How can that quote transform your thinking? Share with King Joshua what that quote maybe does for you. King, that quote, can you share with us what you would hope that we would get from that
you.
quote?
Wisdom, as it were, it is not a foreign plant to your intellectual mind, because prescriptive writing, normative writing, literal writing, formal writing generally assumes a platform of prescription. 1+1 equals 2. There's very little that thinking that happens between that, because the principle is set and you cannot stop to say 1+1 equals 2, because the two ones. Because if you have one apple plus one apple, in as much as mathematically you've been told that you have two apples, but not two apples are the same. So you can still have one apple plus one apple, giving you two apples. That's a common brain. But 1+1 can also give you one apple plus another apple. But 1+1 can also give you exponentially, that when you take one apple and put it next to another apple, you can count the number of apples in a dish, but you can't count the number of apples in a seed. And he who gives you a seed is giving you a forest. So 1+1 is not 2, because what is inside what you call the 2 are seeds which can multiply a dry forest into a reproductive space of a continuous collection, growth, and development of those trees. Now, when you take that kind of a proverb and you move over into your ideology of life formulation, then it changes everything. That in life you cannot always be happy to be counting how many apples do you have, but you can also start thinking how many seeds do you have? Because he who has seeds has more apples than he who has trees. Now, when you find me in this space of intellectual conversation, then literally I don't even have to try to make sense out of abstract conversations, because the very intentions of the writing is meant to interact with your philosophical understanding. So the teaspoon can actually be translated as the quantity and capacity of your religious, social, cultural do's and don'ts. When you walk into the ocean of knowledge and life, which is a global thinking and local application, you are limited in terms of your capacity of processing information based on the parameters of your restrictions. Therefore, if you come there with a small little teaspoon, you come there with small-mindedness on farmers of thought, all you will receive is a teaspoon worth of information, because you are neither prepared to challenge, to increase your capacity. Those that come with dishes and drums will get equivalent to what they come with. But those who have decided that the ocean cannot be emptied with a teaspoon, neither would a generator ever empty the meniscus of an ocean. There is no limit, therefore, to the quantity and capacity of knowledge that you can receive from the shallow waters of your suspicions to the middle waters of your superstition to the depth of the waters of your imagination. There is no limit to what learning is all about. So that proverb simply saying, come to the well with a pitcher, come to places of learning with capacity, and do not limit knowledge because of your limitedness in term. You come to me, for example, as a Christian, all you'll be able to argue is Christianity based on the Bible. Come to me as a Muslim or as a Jew, you only argue with me to the capacity of your religious container. And should I begin to argue much more outside of your religious container? This goes for economic containers, political containers, ethnographical, cultural containers, goes into entertainment, goes into health, the technology, and etc. Whatever your presumptions of what reality is. But that box that says there's only one way that leads to God, and it is Jesus. You come with that theology. And then God says, don't have other gods before me. Then why did God create other gods? And he wakes up in the morning and he says he's jealousy about other gods that he has created. Then for me, I just want to allow that thinking process to begin to say, you can only consider something to be true as long as it tallies, agrees with the previous knowledge that you have received. Conclusion, your greatest weakness and your greatest pain is not new information. Your enemy is previously acquired knowledge. And when that knowledge is challenged, that's where discomfort begins. Because your knowledge tells you this is this, this is not that. Galileo's times. World is round, world is flat, world is what. The Catholic Church comes and says, no, we told you the world is flat. Galileo says, no, the world is round. I looked into the stars. The world is round, the world is flat. And those that have power, which is the Catholic Church, gangs up with the political church, political system. They took Galileo and they killed him. Why? Because he dared to question that which was moving against the tide of religious and academic persuasions. Now, you come into a space of knowledge. Don't walk in there with preconceived ideas. Knowledge is painful. It makes you question even the most basic things. It makes you question your father. Mommy says, this is your dad. And you ask the simple question, which will make your mother throw you out of her house. How do you know that he's my father? Then mommy must start poking and says, hey, you were not there when this happened. I only had your father as my boyfriend. But how do you know that he's my father? How many parents out there have brought up children thinking that they were their children, but they're not their children? Mommy, are you sure this is my father? Yeah, that's your father. That's it. But prove it to me that he is yours. You do the DNA, but how many other people share the same DNA? Even there's no DNA test that says 100%. 80s, 90, the closest could be 99.9%, but that 1% still leaves the possibility that even what you consider to be the fundamental truth of your existence, when you question it to the anger of your mother, you are getting closer to the truth. Worse, women are the only centers of truth. As for men, it's all lies. Because even what women tell us that it is theirs, this is yours, we can only go with her word against my word. When truth is dug into and the right questions are asked, you may just find out that what you consider to be the gospel truth could actually work out, become one of your worst nightmares when you discover that the truth that you consider to be truth is given by your mother is subjective as long as it maintains the knowledge that she has given you. But should she tell you the truth, behind what you consider to be the truth, the world would fall apart. Because what you consider to be your truth as a child, it is not your truth as a mother, and it is not your truth as a husband, and it is not your truth as a family. Questions, therefore, are a door into the reservoir of inquiry that questions your reality. There is God in heaven. What is he doing there? Oh, Jesus died for you. Why? So that your sins can be forgiven. What is sin? It is the devil. Who is the devil? It is the child of God, but then how did God create the devil? No, because then why is God killing us instead of killing the devil? No, but that is love. But what love throws the snake into the blankets of the children and then leaves the snake still living in the house? No, because he wants to create a plan for us. But if he wants us in heaven, why did he put us on earth? No, so that we can go to heaven. But then why kill us and move us to heaven? So that we can live with him, but why live with him there when we are living here? It is ever continuous. And anyone who thinks that they have conclusive answers, any of these inquiries, oh, please be my guest. Because even what you consider to be fundamental truth, when you dig into it, it's only a tip of an iceberg. The day a white man discovers that he comes out of a black man, it will destroy their entire worldview, who they think they are. Even as they've gone to school to study genetics, that is only the black gene that has both the white, black, Indian genes. Only the black mama, black African woman, can reproduce after herself all other shades on the face of the earth. The only true God that we know is the black woman. Come around with your white supremacy theology, come around with your white theology, come around with your ethnographical conversations with these are Caucasians, these are Homo sapiens, these are Africanus, these are what, but that's your study. At the end of the day, black says everything else is here. White says there's nothing here. And when you press into that corner to discover who the black person is, then our intellectual conversation moves beyond political misunderstandings and ideologies into the very genesis identity. Who are we as black people? You pardon me. This book is written exactly in that wavelength of my intellectual frequencies, where it's no longer just about explaining basic things, go to town, buy milk, and come back. Where are you going? Why are you going? Who is coming to eat the milk? How long will you be there? Why are you doing what you're doing? What method are you going to use for traveling? How are you going to come back? How are you going to preserve this milk? Are we going to eat it as fresh? Are we going to eat it as sour? So every what you consider to be a true statement needs a string of questions around that truth, so that you can begin actually the inquiry into what I might tell in the other book that I penned out. Find your truth. Find your truth. And if your truth can be questioned, then it's not true. I think.
Thank you, family. As you can hear, wow, once you get this book, you are going on a journey that's going to take you into a huge reservoir full of wisdom and knowledge, and it's going to make you question. It's going to make you ask questions, and I don't think we question enough, really. And so, this is why you can also see that this is going to be a book that's going to be so useful for leaders, because leaders need to know how to question. They need to know how to challenge, because, colonization has made us, generally speaking, as a people, especially many of our leaders, to be the sort that don't question. They just accept everything that, the former colonial masters tell them. So, be prepared to question. This teaches us how to question. And the questions are deep. But as you say, by asking these questions, we begin to then open up our spirit mind to get the answers that we need. Wow, powerful. And that was a deep response, King Joshua. That is some journey that we're going to be on. Let's have a look at the chat and see if we've got any questions or comments from anyone in the audience. Post your comments in the audience. Dora welcome, Dora, who says, what's that? Noigla is religion backwards and it means nuclear. Okay. Kwame says, our spiritual beliefs are more powerful than non-African religions. Of course. We've got Mary Bontus in the house welcoming us. Let's see if I can find any questions or any points. Few comments there on religion, circular argument with religion. Okay, all righty. Let's see if we can find a quote that deals with religion, because I know that there's a whole segment in there that makes you want to question religion. And that's something that we're taught, in modern religions not to do, not to question. My greatest regret, King says, is to have spent so much time preaching how people should escape to heaven instead of how they should live on earth. I wonder if you could elaborate a bit more on that for us, please.
That quotation comes from a personal space of my own inquiry and the inquiry over religious education, that you are given a prescription of positive or religious interactions, which we call dogma or theology, where then you are told a set of belief systems. You live, you die, wait for Jesus to come back, then you go to heaven, la 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 la. Beautiful story, narrative, done. And we all, for the past 500 years, if not 2,000 years, been waiting for Jesus to come back and take us to heaven. Noble idea. But while you are waiting for that noble idea, then you begin to read the text and says, not all of you will die, when he's talking to the disciples, before you see the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. And you're reading this in 2024, and all of the people that heard that have died. Doesn't that give you an inquiry to say, was this text given literally, hypothetically, spiritually, esoterically? what could be the meaning? Because when you look at it literally, the top passage says, my disciples, all of you will not see death before you see me coming. 2,000 years later, we're still talking that Jesus is coming again. But he has not yet come. Even in the backdrop of his own words, that the disciples that were listening to him, not all of them will die before he comes back. So you come around as a young theologian who has been propagating this theology. What theology? Transporting people from earth to heaven, selling mansions in the sky. I've been doing this for 33 years. And given a chance on any platform, on any day. Dare me, Shanice. Dare me. One day to come here and say, Maponga J, can you preach the second coming of Jesus? I'll baptize all of you. All of you by the end of the program. You'll be standing at the door waiting for me to baptize you so that you can go to heaven. But the question is life all about running away from earth to heaven? Or is life about being practical and relevant here in the physical realm before we transit into the spiritual realm? So that I concluded from my own personal inquiry that one of my biggest regrets that I could have lived as my old age is that I made so many people focus into the eschatological parousia, the dogmatic return of the Lord and Savior from the clouds. And I forgot to remind them that while you are waiting for the second coming of Jesus, you must be practically living, improving your lives, so that in the event he comes, he still finds you happy, rich, and healthy. And if he does not come, your life is still worth living. So is life all about what will happen after we die? Or life is all about what is happening while we are living? So the question is, are you alive before you are born? According to Jeremiah, I knew you before you were born. I took you and I placed you in your mother's womb. So who is this person that is known before birth? Question number 2, are you alive when you are alive? Is life only life when you have been conscious from the spiritual unconsciousness to the physical consciousness, that now you can interpret life and say, my name is Shanice? Of course, that's what your mother told you you are. That's what your father told you are. But in the event I take away your name, or you wake up one morning having had a disease that wipes away some of that memory, then who are you when you can't even remember your name? You're still a human being. Oh, I'm a woman. I'm a man. Like, really? You pick up a small little furniture hanging between your legs to define a whole 80, 90 kgs, 45, 60 kgs worth of weight. You describe it only by a piece of furniture that is less than 1 kg. Then I'm a human being. And all of a sudden, the issues of sex, issues of religion, issues of geographical placement become non-relevant. They're non-important. Because ultimately, your definition of who you are is not based on some of your physical expressions of who you are, but fundamentally, who are you? With or without sex, with or without religion, with or without nationality, with or without complexion and color. What do you define yourself to be? And again, a depth of my theological knowledge will blow off your mind, because it is in the same text that people would walk around and sit around Yahshua and he says, who do people say I am? Some say you're Elijah, some say you're Moses, some say you're Isaiah, some say you're... But what do you say? What do you say I am? All of a sudden, theological definitions of identity fizzle out into nothing. Peter said, but you are Yahshua, Son of the living God, and etc. Upon that rock I'll build my church. So when you begin to interpret text, and I'm not even using this only purely for theological amusement or theological understanding, but when you take knowledge, question it properly, you may just find that the depths of your inquiry will further lead you into the spaces of continuous learning. So yes, theology, wrongly taught, can create fanatics and cults. Correctly taught will educate people of relevance in the present. So life is not what you were before you were born. Is life what you are when you are now living? Is life what you will become after you're dead? Understanding the punctuation of time prior to, in the presence of, post this, while you are spiritually conscious, for you are physically absent with where you are. Now you are physically conscious who you are, but spiritually you are unconscious where you're coming from and where you're going. When you die, you are finally unconscious to the physical space of who you are. Are you now spiritually conscious of who you will become? And for me, this is an intellectual uh, journey of inquiry of life, which leads to my disappointment that I spent so much time in the future tense. I even forgot the present tense, and I am undermined the past tense. And the question I leave for the audience: when are you alive? For birth, during life, or after death? Last question. If you were alive before birth, are you alive when you are living, or are you alive after you're dead? And what is death? Is it the presence of the spirit in the absence of the flesh? Or is it the presence of the flesh in the absence of the spirit? Or it is the presence of both when one is conscious, other one is unconscious. And man, don't get me started, because this is where I live, where constantly I throw questions. Every other question leads me to the deeper question. So when we are awake, we are physically awake and we are spiritually unconscious. When we fall off to sleep, we are physically unconscious and we are spiritually conscious. That's why we travel places. That's why we see things in our visions and in our dreams, etc. That's why we experience life in another realm. Unfortunately, our academic institutions have not done justice to move beyond the five senses. Beyond the five senses: hear, touch, taste, see, smell. There is deja vu. You walk to a place and say, but I was here before. There is premonition. I just don't feel right about this deal. There is intuition. My gut tells me 1, 2, 3, 4. In your academic training, what did they call these senses? They are missing. We were taught in school we have five senses, okay? How many senses? Five. Hear, taste, smell, and what? What in your mature age right now, can you still keep that definition? That life is all about smell, taste, see, and hear? When as a mother, my mother is sitting wherever she is, another 500 kilometers from here, she picks up her phone and says, hello, Josh. Hello, Ma. How are you? What's wrong? I'm okay. No, no, I can tell. What's wrong? What sense is that which my mother can sense in her gut without a stethoscope, a microscope, telescope, the odometer, and what, and wherever she's sitting, she can sense in her spirit that her son is not doing well? Which sense is that on top of the five? Maybe the definitions of the very science itself are limited to the test tube, when the reality is that when a person is fast asleep, 100% unconscious, they are still 100% conscious in another realm, though they are dysfunctional in another realm. Can you please go back to school and tell me what happens when a person is fast asleep? Is sleep? Is it a drug? Is it the human body recalibrating itself? Is it a mystery? Then learning for me begins right there, when you walk into the spaces of what you consider to be the gospel truth. As many of my Christian friends love to say, this is the gospel. Oh, hallelujah. But when you look into what you call the gospel truth of you drinking the blood of Jesus, eating his flesh, gospel truth, then you say to yourself, so what's the difference? You as a Christian who is drinking the blood of a human being and eating his flesh, African who is drinking the blood of a chicken and eating its flesh. Who is a better human being, the one who eats another human being as a cannibalist, or the one who eats a chicken, the normal human beings? Question. And who is normal between the two? The fact that you have 60 million people, 1.2 billion people who believe this to be the gospel truth is this truth in terms of reality. While I'm writing this book, I'm doing a constant reflection between the Western hegemony and the African mindset in terms of our theological formulation, our ideologies and idiosyncrasies, which then give us proclivities towards what we accommodate and tolerate as truth, and what we vehemently would refuse it as antagonistic to our own spiritual and religious, quote unquote, colonial religious persuasion. That a colonialist will tell you that it is holy to put on a ring on your finger. But it is not right when your own father gives you to another man as his wife. So if I don't have a ring and a white dress, means that I'm not married. But who says marriage is a piece of metal hanging on your finger? Who has defined that? Then you begin to challenge even the fundamentals, constitutionalism, and cultural persuasion, which I might want to term as dominant culture, theology, and colonialism over religious persuasion. That one culture then imposes itself on another. And whatever they impose, they consider that to be true. What will be my regret? My regret will be to have driven people away from themselves into understanding theological frameworks which have been formulated by a bunch of white people sitting in the midst of nowhere telling the whole world how they must dress, eat, drink, and walk, when what they're eating, drinking, and walking is not relevant, where everyone else is drinking and walking. You can't tell an African to be a vegetarian who lives in the Sahara and the Kalahari Desert, where they only see green things 3 months out of the 9 months. And you tell them to be vegetarian. Vegetarian from what? Well, there's no vegetation at all. So your theology of what you consider to be the ultimate health, back to Eden, by eating fruits and vegetables. Let's take that message to people who are living in the tropical islands, in the tropical regions, and the equators, where they can have fruit 24 12 months a year. But for us living in the savannah, we may have to dry up some meat, we may have to dry up some vegetables, we may have to dry up other things. And so what is truth there? So the Baha'i, the Buddhists, and the Hare Krishnas, who are living in a place where there's abundance of fruit, cannot walk up to a place where people are living in the desert and impose the same theology and say what is relevant in our Islamic religion in the desert must be relevant to you who is living in the tropical island. So that a black man must put on a jacket and a tie in 42 to 45 degrees heat, because the theology is written by a white man who's living in the snow, who actually needs a tie and a jacket for warmth and environmental friendliness, vis-a-vis an African who does not even need a tie, let alone a jacket, in some certain cases, even a shirt. But because religion says you must put on a jacket and a tie, black man will be sweating his head off, trying to look like a white man in the heat of the African sun. And when he complies to what the white man says, he feels he's closer to God than his fellow brother who is walking with his chest bare on the ground. What's my regret? Is to have thought that Christianity was godly in its colonial clothes, when in fact I became an Uncle Tom, maintaining fellow Africans from their true identity. I regret for having spent time helping the white man to colonize the black man using theology as a tool, I think.
Wow, family, clearly a book that makes you think very deeply indeed and question everything. And the deeper the questions go, wow, the more we, I think, begin to find our own mind, because we've just been conditioned into a way of thinking. And so and we don't question enough. I've got a, and we can see getting into the mind of King Maponga here makes you start to question and think. Here's another question on the religious side. It says, And again, it's just going to make you think so differently and broaden our perspective. Why did God make the devil invisible? Why were human beings dumped with a divine problem? Why is God protecting the devil? What would happen if we could see the devil like we saw Jesus? The field is not equal. Wow. King, some of us in the West think we're looking at the devil every day. We think the devil is wrong.
And I think this is a Shanice. We need to put a disclaimer clause on the book that says, "I'm not responsible. Farmers of Thought and the team are not responsible for the loss of faith while you are reading this book." Because I don't want to some people when they are reading they seem to throw it back at me that, yeah, you're going to burn in hell, you've driven so many people away from God and etc. But man, truth is what remains when everything else has fallen apart. So if these questions will make God uncomfortable, if these questions will make pastors and religious institutions uncomfortable, if these questions will make you as a believer uncomfortable, then I actually honestly think that this book is for you. This book is for you. Because if we're even to use the biblical text, we did not have a God created a bunch of robots that must just float with everything that is there. And one of the quotations, you find it actually in the book there. If God gave us a brain, then why is not allowing us to use it? But all of a sudden, you always preach about this omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, this God who is all knowing, all loving, and the all this one who created the world and suspended it on nothing, who put the stars in the skies, balanced the gases in the air, photosynthesis, moves plants and feeds trees on the sun and light and what, and we highly speak of this highly intelligent being who is the center of all creation. Now, if he says, let's make man in our own image, then what makes us so stupid? Because our source is not as stupid as we behave. And then that's where me and many Christians, we part ways. Because by inquiry, by no ways possible, do I doubt the existence of God. I have no proof for it. The only proof I have that there is something called God out there is when I look at myself in the mirror. But there is no way this amount of genius could have been with you out of pre-adventure, coincidence, a big bang. We just happen to be here. But that takes lots of faith. Think that you can walk in the jungles of Okavango and walk in the jungles of the equator and find an AMG Mercedes-Benz double barrel 8V cylinder parked in the midst of nowhere. And I ask you, but how is this possible that you could have an AMG E63 parked in the bush by itself? And then you come around and look at me, Shanice, and say, this is evolution. The rubber went to India and looked for itself, and it made itself into wheels. The aluminium went into Africa and made itself into a carburetor. The leather went into Argentina and made itself into car seats. And the whole car is here because of evolution. And now that takes quite an big amount of to think that a cell phone could appear on the surface of the ocean by itself without anyone else having been involved in designing it. Now, for me, I leave that for scientists because my mind cannot go that far. I cannot comprehend creation without an intelligent presence of the other who meticulously designs everything after himself. Those who do theology, this is what you might call in in your fourth and fifth year of theology, in systematic theology, the ontological argument, which says behind every design, there's a designer. As a principle, for you to have a Gucci, someone sat behind and created Gucci. For you to have Mercedes-Benz, someone sat and created Mercedes-Benz. BMW, Microsoft, Apple, Colgate, Starlink, SpaceX, there must be a Bill Gates, there must be an Elon Musk, there must be someone who sits to design. So what you call a brand today, be it your French whiskies, be it your caviars, be it your couture in French clothing, be it your Italian, your Milanos, be it your American products and brands, Nikes and Adidases and what. Name any brand that you want on the face of the earth, and I will show you someone who stood in the past to create this brand. After you've done that, pardon me, this car is giving me. After you've done that, to understand that every design has a designer, please go no further, but look at yourself and say, how do I become me if my mother and father did not make me? And how did they make me if their fathers did not make them? And how did they make them if their fathers and mothers did not make them? And slowly you would slide into the past. And I want to believe that when you go further back, you find that Shanice and Maponga J have a common ancestry, and actually, physically speaking, the more further we go back, you will start moving away from the Caribbean. You will get back on the ocean, backward motion. You will get onto the boats. We'll offload you off the boats, back onto the continent. We'll take you back to your village. We'll go back to your grandfathers and ask who were the grandfathers in Cameroon, the grandfathers in Senegal. Where did they start from? From the Sohai, from the Abyssinia, or from Carthagia, or from Numtapa, or Congo, or from the Benin space. Where did they all begin? Go back again into the Congo Basin, this cradle of humankind. Who were they? Maybe Shanice and Maponga J. Actually, in the past, they sat together under the African skies. Thousands of years for migration to the north and to the south. And if our mothers are common, maybe Shanice and Maponga J are actually brother and sister, like in the truest sense of the word. This is no longer cosmetic. This now takes us back to the kitchen of our grandmother, another 14,000 years back there, where we could have sat actually and played together in our previous lives as brothers and sisters. Here we are in 2024. I am Caribbean. I am from the Bahamas. I'm Jamaican. I'm African. I am this and this. We begin to put all these boundaries and borders that divide ourselves from each other. This kind of a conversation for me that gets into your very bones of existence today. Maybe what we consider to be a reality is actually not reality. The real reality is that Apple phone 6, Apple phone 8, Apple phone 11, 15, Apple phone 16. Maybe they all are Apple phones. They come from the very same luxury company. Maybe using that illustration loosely. But don't tell me how better is your iPhone from the other phone. For today, that's not the conversation. The conversation is what is the common denominator of all these phones. Maybe it's the updating software. Maybe actually the software has just been improving, but the product has remained the same and the originators are the same. Looking for that common ancestry becomes very fundamental for every black child. Don't read it for me, read it for yourself. You know yourself, I think.
Wow. Know yourself, family. As you was talking there, King Maponga, I'm thinking, who am I? If I strip away, my gender, my belief systems, etc., who am I? In the physical, in the spiritual, in the conscious, in the unconscious. Wow, you really make us have to think. And it's clear, as I said before, that we just don't, I think most of us think enough and take that space and time that we need to think. And that's what your book requires us to do, because it's also has a workbook in there. And so, you'll put your quotes and then you'll jot down your thoughts about those quotes. And, King is teaching us here, how to ask questions and how far we can go with the questions that we ask. We can go to other universes. We can go into the cosmos with our thoughts, into the sea world. Wow, we can go back generations upon generations upon generations. Wow. The thought process.
And you tell me, Shanice, when I tell you now on this platform, and I call you my sister, with that understanding, how does that improve the relationship between me and you in terms of how we deal with each other? When you now have the conscious understanding that Maponga J is my brother, and you're not saying so superficially or intelligently or in a Pan-Africanist or a Kwanzaa, this ideological. No. Like in the real context of your DNA, that when you look at a fellow black person, you actually say, this is my brother, my sister. Imagine what that does to our relationships as husbands and wives. We stop being strangers to each other. We actually begin to say, okay, even if we fail each other as husband and wife, but ultimately, this is my brother, this is my sister. I think when you see my children, even if they're not yours, they were not sleeping in your loins, but when you see them, all of a sudden the Ubuntu spirit begins to coil all of us, saying, you are my brother, you are my sister. Only then can we begin to talk like Africans. When many of you have been missing for years, bring up child. You hear that proverb, it just sounds like some nice little fancy thing. When you understand the depth of African mindset that says ah, we are brothers and sisters. We are a common ancestor. He is my brother. He is my sister. This is her child. No, I'm wrong. This is our child. No, I'm wrong. This is my child. Now, when you reach that level, your mind gets, and I think that's where the white people are beating us as Africans. We are easily divided between Cameroon, Nigeria, Zambia, Somalia, Ethiopia, Uganda, Rwanda, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Malawi. These colonial orders have superseded our ethnographical connections to each other. So that honestly speaking, should you be walking down and you see another black child, you'd not be scared of opening up your door and say, child, get into the shower, then clean up yourself. Dress up, take some clothes there. Go into the fridge, get some food. Eat, proceed on your way. Which is where the African is to be. walking past my house. The sun has set. I will not allow you to sit. Come inside. Wash. Eat. Sleep. Proceed. When I am my brother's keeper, I am my sister's keeper. You don't even need to come into my house to ask for food that is in my field. Please go inside the field there. Take some watermelon. Take some sweet reeds. Take something. Eat, please. Sit in the field. Eat. When you're full, walk away. You don't need to come and report to me. The only problem is that when you harvest and fill up your bag and you carry it with you. If the issue is human survival and hunger, you are not stealing if you walk into my field without my permission, because your life is in danger, and you fill up your stomach with food and you proceed on your journey. Because when I come to your field also, I should be able to do the same without an inquiry. Now, that is the essence. We are now unpacking what it means to be African. Ubuntu, umuntu, ngabantu, umuntu, onobuntu, umuntu, ongenabuntu. He who does not have humanness is not a human being, but is an it. That's why I clearly would declare publicly to the world that a white man is not a muntu, because they don't have buntu. They don't have the ethics and ethos of humanness. How can you have a bunch of white men sitting in a boardroom somewhere called the Pentagon and etc., creating nuclear weapons to wipe out life from everybody else and kill everybody else? Call those human beings? No. No. And dare you Africans follow the path of the white man. Become less human than what you are. I think.
Well, thank you. Wow, if we were, all, as you said there, to embrace that essence of brotherly and sisterly love, to, go back to that common ancestor and begin to embrace each other on that basis. Wow, imagine the unity that we would have, the Ubuntu that we would have, the ability to, just what we would want for our brother and our sister, we would want for all of our people. And that's where we've got to get to ultimately. Wow. And this is why, we need to change the way we think. And this is what you're doing for us right now. You're helping to reshape our minds. You're helping to make us think differently. And that's why we need our own educational institutions as well, so we can think differently and question everything. There's a story in the news today. Which one? Let me bring this story to you, King. This is one of the stories that I came across today. Apparently, there was a cyclone Chido, in Mozambique. It's reported tragically to have killed at least 45 people and leaving hundreds injured. A cyclone in Mozambique. The article says that the United Nations says the death toll in Mozambique has risen to at least 45, with hundreds others injured following the passage on Sunday of tropical cyclone Chido. More than 35,000 houses were destroyed or severely damaged after winds of up to 260 kilometers an hour hit mainly Cabo Delgado and Nampula provinces in the north. Now, at one time, we would have been in tune with nature, would we not? And would we not have known that this cyclone was coming? Was King Bob. Would we not have known that this cyclone is coming? I recall you sharing with us, King. I know you're there, even though we can't see you on the screen.
I'm right here. I was just someone was trying to jump onto the line, and while I'm switching them off, I discovered my thing is frozen, but I'm fixing it. Just proceed.
Okay, yes. I recall you saying that we used to be able to determine what the rain level would be like based on the birds and how high they would build their nests. If they built their nests quite high up, then we would know, for example, there's going to be a lot of rain this season. And if they built it low down, then there wouldn't be much rain. Well, why are we so disconnected now with nature and so disconnected with the spiritual realm that we don't even get the messages and we can't even see the signs of cyclones coming anymore? Or is it that it's not acts of nature and that it is possibly, which we do know exists, HAARP machines, these high frequency machines that are used to purposely create tsunamis and earthquakes around the world, you know, to stop development where development is happening, to hinder progress, to hinder development, to keep particular countries always on its knees the moment it seems to be standing on its feet. I wonder if you could share your thoughts with us, and if possible, come back on camera too.
I don't know. It's not. Maybe you can give me a minute. Let me just log out and log in back again. I think there was a disturbance there. 1 sec.
Yes. Okay. Family. You know, our heart goes out to all the beautiful family members in Mozambique who have suffered as a result of this cyclone. You know, 35,000 houses destroyed. The UN office, they're always there, aren't they? The UN office for the coordination of humanitarian affairs that says that it has distributed $4 million in emergency aid and for the estimated 181,000 people affected. Now, what we know is that if they have dispersed $4 million in emergency aid, they've bought $4 million worth of aid from their own businesses, from their own organizations, from their own companies, using money in their own banks. And now they're going to look to the world to reimburse them with real money that goes into their account to refill, you know, their coffers and so that there's money there that they can use to buy from their own businesses again. So we can see that, you know, there's a coordinated effort here to benefit from the suffering of those who have been tragically affected by this cyclone. That's the way I see it. King Joshua.
I think over and above the disasters that are happening, of the greatest pain that I have is that where there's no knowledge, people die not because of the absence of faith, absence of knowledge. I had a vision years ago when we had the cyclone Idai. This is cyclone Ido. Same path. Mozambique, Benguela means flow into Mozambique, into Zimbabwe, and they go. In the ancient times, when you look at the map of Africa, right at that end, at the corner there, you look at your map in Mozambique, it's a big dent towards the end where the continent is like dented inside. This has been the path of the wind for time immemorial. This is how the Indian Ocean moved water into the lower parts of Africa, particularly the lower part of the savanna forests. These forests from Mozambique, the upper part of Chimanimani and Nyanga and Mutare, driving right up into the Bechnaf Bridge. It's almost like 60 to 80 square kilometer forest that you'd find from Mozambique into the depth of Zimbabwe. These used to be sacred forests. Human beings cannot live in this belt. These were forests for animals and hunting, which had their own mysteries in the days gone past. The sand is soft, the mountains slide, quicksand, they drown, lots of rain, lots of water, animals live there. Now, people forget the basic knowledge of geography and history. In civilization, independence, freedom, Department of Housing, Department of Human Settlement, people begin to cut each other pieces of land, and they move their housings and their businesses onto the belt where the wind will always blow. Every 2 to 4 to 5 years, 10 years, the wind will not stop, Shanice, from traveling on this path. So in the vision I was told, please tell them not to build what I have destroyed. I said, why? He says, there's nothing you can do selfishly to put your house in the pathway of the wind and hope that your house won't be destroyed. I cried in my sleep. I said, but people are dying. Then I heard the whisper say, if you're going to live in those areas, go to the ants. Go and learn the ways of the ants. What do you mean? Why is it that a 4-story building built by a human being falls apart and an anthill built by ants still stands after the flood? It goes into the architecture of the ants, architecture, modernity, and when modernity looks into nature with its cosmetic, it does not have structural sustainability in the moment of the storm. So 2 things, either change your architecture to that which survives, or move away from the pathway of the wind. It will not stop. We had another disaster literally 5 years ago in the same place. It has come back again. It will be quiet for 2 years. It will come back again. I want to say this loud and clear. Those who are living in New Orleans and what, just move away from the path of the wind. It has nothing to do with earthly disasters. You are simply putting your house in the riverbed. And when it floods, you will end up in the drain. I don't know how I can pass such simple information. That knowledge preserves life. Foolishness and economics develops fools, become prayer warriors. They want to pray to God now to protect them for having water in their kitchen. When your house is in the sand, where the river will flow when it floods. Who is a fool here?
And the environmental ministers and the relevant authorities don't seem to know this. They haven't learned anything from history. They haven't decided that they should harness the winds and the rain that's going to come every 4 years. They should move the people away and out of the path of the wind. Why are our leaders, totally oblivious to history and the knowledge that you've just shared with us here and the wisdom that ought to come from that knowledge?
We have wise people in life. We also have educated fools that educated. But in the midst of your education, foolishness has not left you. Because I don't understand a geography teacher who buys a piece of land from a corrupt politician and they build their house on a wetland. And then they want to go to church and pray for God to protect them from the wetland. I don't know who is a fool. But somewhere, when foolishness and stupidity share the same bed, imbecility is the product. Madness, that you could be so naive knowledge and be so infatuated with faith. And you think that because you have faith, that your faith protects you from common sense. I mean, I don't care how much faith you have. Put your hand in the fire, it will burn. It's simple. Simple. There are principles that don't need prayer. Climb a roof and jump, you will fall. Gravity is not subject to prayer unless God in his miraculous ways can decide to protect you from falling from a roof. But hey, you'll have tempted God beyond common sense, because there's some principles that even God must obey. What are those principles? A woman will get pregnant for 9 months and deliver. Principle that even in your midst of your 99 hours of prayer per day, you cannot fast-track a pregnancy to deliver a child in 2 months who is a full-term baby. There's no faith that works. Principles of life. You're going to be eating pig and fat and etc. and then pray that God must protect you from high blood pressure when your body is full of fat. There's some things that don't need prayer. This is where Dr. Selby comes in. So stop over religion, putting over religion things that need common sense and health principles. Eat poison, you will die. Don't try it. Don't try that at home. Say God said you will be bitten by snakes. Snakes will not kill you. Hey, you will die. Unless and until God decides to protect you. But don't tempt God with foolishness and become a prayer warrior. It doesn't work like that. So there are principles of life which must be maintained, whether they are land principles, diet principles, so which environmental principles, meat is left outside, it will come. You don't need prayer. Just put salt, preserve it, and you can have it. If things are left the way they are, they will go the natural way in which they go. And understanding of that common knowledge, I don't know what they want to call that wisdom, but it's simply common sense. And common sense is uncommon. So I don't know what happens to politicians. I don't know what happens to these environmentalists, ministers of what and what. But when foolishness becomes our password, disaster becomes our surname.
I hope the leaders, thank you. I hope the leaders in Mozambique, hear what you have to say and to remind them, to hear you reminding them of history. 35,000 homes destroyed. 35,000 homes, the lives of the families of 35,000 families in shatters right now because of an irresponsible, government who doesn't seem to understand the patterns of nature and fail to study nature. How can an anthill survive a cyclone and modern houses don't?
And again, while you are feeling the pain of the 35,000 homes, you can do a desktop study and say, what is the population of Mozambique? What is their land mass in Mozambique? Why are people crowded around this wind path when they have such a vast amount of land where people can simply be moved away from these lands and go back to factory settings? These are sacred forests, and it is the pathway of the wind. Stay away from these forests and let nature take its course. You cannot put yourself in front of a coming train and then you want to philosophize and religiously begin to have a debate around life and conservation. As I am saying it, common sense is uncommon. Looking at the land mass of Mozambique, there is enough land to the south and to the north, where people and government can habit, and leave these forests alone. Just get your houses, move away from there. I don't know how loud I can shout and tell people. Just pack your bags and move away from there. There is no amount of prayer and fasting and holy oil which will stop the winds from blowing. 200 kilometers, 200 kilometers per hour. And you want to put your house in front of a wind that moves the 200 kilometers per hour. You want to build a house. Unless you learn the ways of the ants, you don't deserve to live there. So my message for Mozambique, my sincere condolences and apologies for the disaster that has happened. But my candid spiritual counsel, which I give you in full authority from my office, as one of the leaders amongst you, if you were affected by this tornado, take advice from a fool. Pack your bags. Move away 60 to 70 kilometers away from where you are. Stay away from the pathway of the wind. And when the wind comes, it must find your house very far. But if you want to stay, you're sluggard and fool. Go and learn the ways of the ants, and you'll be wise.
Thank you so much. We are 2 minutes away from the top of the hour, 2 minutes away from the end of the show. It's just gone so quickly. I really want to encourage everyone to get a copy of King Maponga's ebook. You can go to Gumroad and get your book, okay? Kwanzaa is here. Christmas, for those of you who celebrate Christmas, is upon us as well. Get a copy of the book and encourage our young people to reconnect with the proverbs and the wisdom, that our King Maponga is sharing with us in this ebook. As you've heard from the conversation that we're having today, it will make you think. It will make your young people think. And we need to start thinking with our African minds now and get out of just being docile within this colonial system that seems to have everything worked out for us and stopped us from thinking. Let's ask King Maponga if he would kindly leave us with some closing remarks.
Language is a library. Proverbs and idioms are the diet of the royalty and the kings. Because it is here that we're able to pass and transmit large amounts of information without necessarily explaining everything. So when you hear those who speak in proverbs, those who speak in idioms, those who celebrate their totems, it's actually coded language, back then, knowledge. Place your mind within that royal frequency, be able also to tap into your ancestral memory. This book is incomplete until you translate this book into your own language, or until you go into the book and through the workbook, write your own book based on this book. Let the rivers of knowledge and wisdom of one mountain to another valley all gather later on the great sea of knowledge and understanding. The water that is in the cup is the same water that is in the river. What is in the cup is from the river. What is on your plate is from the soil. Standing our systems are established and our things are connected. Make us respect the value chain of our existence. That every African It's another Africa. Sister. Those few words. Please pick the book, the process of the book for you. Help us build an institute with you and your children that will come. While I'm still living and breath is still running through my chest and nostrils, let me help you secure the future of your children. If I fail with you, please give your children an opportunity and your contribution a long way. Help us put this institution into good function so that those who need this information must find it relevant as and when they are here. Please, leaders are readers. Leaders are leaders. He who shapes your thinking, he who shapes your thinking, he writes what you read. Those that reason, those that think. Move into the space where you can begin to formulate for yourselves. Thinking, just using some of the thinking tools that we've supplied to you. So, few words, I want to thank you, Sista Shanice, for spending time exploring the depth of this book. And I think this is an inexhaustible subject. Once in a week, I think we can just pick up one or two proverbs without necessarily running for the program. Even some of your broadcasts that you're doing, maybe pick up one or two proverbs. I could always pop in there 2, 3, 4 minutes and I add my 2 cents worth and get other guests also to tell us what they think. But ultimately, we want an Africa that thinks more than an Africa that believes. I thank you.
Thank you so much. To everyone in the audience, we thank you so much for joining us, for interacting with us today. Make sure you get your copy of the book and drink from this fountain of knowledge and wisdom. Let's wise up as a people. The link to the book is in the chat. Thank you so much in advance for your support. Make sure you grab a copy of the book so that when we have King Maponga join us again, you can share with us in the discussion what your favorite quotes are and maybe ask King to elaborate or to give some of his thinking around your favorite quotes. So let's make these sessions coming up an interactive one as King has suggested, and let's begin to grow together as a collective in knowledge as we drink from the fountain of wisdom that King Joshua Maponga has started to share with us in the first volume of this book. More love, more strength, peace and love, family. Sista Shanice out of here. Get your book because we're going to be going through it next strong. Bye for now. Thank you again.